Hi there, hello, and welcome to Base Camp. I'm Pastor Pat.
And I don't even know why I bother anymore.
Nodda, you okay there, buddy?
No, not that you care.
I don't care. What do you mean? Of course I care.
You say you care, but I know the truth.
Nodda, I really want to know what's going on, but you're going to have to be a little bit clearer.
Fine. I always have to spell everything out for you. Who are the biggest stars on Base Camp?
Biggest stars? I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Who gets the most screen time? Who does our incredibly large audience love to see?
Incredibly large audience? Have you looked at our view count lately?
Never mind that. Who are the biggest characters on Base Camp?
Well, that depends on how you define character.
You know what I mean. Obviously, there's you, the host.
Glad I get to be a part.
And then, who else?
Well, there's lots of people who show up on Base Camp.
Yeah, but the regulars.
I don't think there's that many regular people on Base Camp.
Ha ha. Once again, you know what I mean. People that get to have recurring roles, the stars of the show.
Again, I don't think having 12 people watch makes anyone a star.
Fine, I'll list them. There's Melvin.
He'd appreciate you calling him a star.
Yup. And Pat Man and Evil Villain Man. They actually got to do the Kid Bowl episode for that big football game that plays in February.
That's right. They did a good job, too.
Actually, Evil Villain Man did an evil job. But that's not the point. Otto got to do the New Year's special, and even Respecto did a team up with Melvin. All of them have had their own episode lately. Do you know when my last episode was? The beginning of November! That's 5 months, man!
Hold on. Didn't you play the wolf in our Little Pig episode? And you got to play the bear when those kids were making fun of Elisha.
For most of the bear one, I was wearing a mask. You couldn't even see me. And even if you could, those are simply cameo roles. You've reduced me to the level of Big Chicken.
Oh, yeah. Big Chicken. He hasn't been on in quite a while.
That's my point. Once you're down to just being a cameo, it's hardly another step to not being here at all. I'm not a cameo. I'm supposed to be a star.
To be fair, you've got to be a star before you can be a cameo. Otherwise, you're just an extra.
So it's worse than I thought. I'm not just a cameo. I'm a has-been.
Nodda.
I used to be somebody. Now I'm a nothing. Zilch. Zero. Nada. And that's not just a clever pun.
First, you're not a nothing, or even just a cameo. You're still an important part of Base Camp.
Whatever. Talk is cheap, dude.
And even if you did have a reduced role, that wouldn't reduce your value.
Because you can't reduce nothing?
No, because every person is important.
Right. There's no small parts, just small actors. Whatever. I ain't buying it. Next you'll say, we're all important to God.
Well, we are all important to God.
Why do I always have to be right?
No, really. Here, let me introduce you to someone who could have really complained about her changing role.
Where? I don't see anyone.
She's in the Bible?
Right. I might have guessed.
We find out about her in 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 1 through 5a. Now Naaman was a commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy.
Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't hear anything about a girl with a changing role in this passage. Just a great warrior that everyone looks up to because he's awesome. So far, this isn't making me feel any better.
Just wait.
Hold on! Is this like some kind of a Mulan story? There's a girl that everyone overlooks because she's just a nobody. But then, this Naaman guy is called on to save his country, but he can't because he has that leprosy thing going on. So, the girl dresses up like him, does a musical montage to become a great warrior, and saves the day. With a little help from a miniature dragon and a grasshopper.
It was a cricket,
Same difference.
and no.
Too bad. I bet it would have made a great movie.
It already did.
See? Told ya.
Picking up in verse 2. Now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. "By all means, go." The king of Aram replied,
Ah. So, there's the little girl. Captured and turned into a slave. Let me guess. She uses this opportunity to trick Naaman and get him captured by the Israelites, making her one of the greatest heroes in the history of the northern kingdom of Israel.
No, she actually really did give Naaman good advice to help him to get healed by God.
Really? Why? Wasn't he the one that had enslaved her? Shouldn't she want to get him back?
He was, and she didn't. But that's a topic for a different episode. The important thing here is that she went from being a free girl in Israel to being a slave girl in Aram. But instead of being bitter or thinking she was just a nobody with nothing left of importance, she saw her situation as an opportunity to do something great for someone else and for God.
So, she introduced Naaman to Elisha?
No.
She introduced him to the king of Israel.
No.
She got rewarded for her good deeds and was made queen.
No.
All right, that's all I got. What's her name so I can look up what she did?
I don't know.
You don't know? Pastor Pat, you're slipping. We used to be able to rely on you for Bible knowledge stuff. Did you even finish reading this story before you told it to me?
It's not that. The Bible doesn't say her name.
It doesn't? Weird. Weird. All right, well, keep reading so I can hear about all the other great things she does.
That's it. That's all the Bible tells us about her. It then moves on to the rest of Naaman's story.
That's it? There's nothing more about her? She doesn't have any more of a role?
No. In fact, you could almost say she just plays a cameo.
Then what's so important about her?
Without her faithfulness to God and her embracing the role that God had given her, nothing else that happens could happen. She's the one who directed Naaman to go to Elisha. She's the reason he travels to Israel and does actually get healed. And more than that, she's also the reason that, spoilers, in the end, the greatest leader of the army of Aram gives his life to God and decides to follow only him.
All that from some little nameless slave girl?
Who only shows up in 2 verses and is referred to in 1 more. She might be only an extra in the story, but without her, there is no story. She recognized that it didn't matter how small she might appear to be, God still had a big role for her to play. She was still super important to him.
So, you're saying I'm not a nothing, not an extra, and even not a cameo?
Right. You're incredibly important, and God wants you to play your role well, even if it doesn't look like much. To him, you are of infinite value, no matter how small some, or even you, might think that you are.
Oh, thanks, Pastor Pat. And you know what? I'm going to embrace what God has for me, even if it does mean a reduced role on base camp. I can handle not being a star. You don't have to make me the center of an episode.
Nodda?
Yeah?
You just did an episode.
Oh, hey! That's right.
Thanks for doing your part, buddy. And thank you for joining us today for Base Camp, a ministry of Summit Church in beautiful Bozeman, Montana. I'm Pastor Pat.
And I'm Nodda Cameo.
Right. Anyway, you can join us for Sunday services every week at 10 o'clock or online at summitchurchmt.com and on Facebook and YouTube at Summit Church MT. Our children's ministry Facebook page is Base Camp Kids Min. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Pastor Pat?
Yeah?
You know, I'm glad we had this whole talk about being a cameo. I think it's important for people to embrace the role that they've been given.
Well, I am glad to hear that, but I told you, you're not a cameo.
I know, but someone else is.
What? Hi, Big Chicken.